Jiang Chen awakens inside a murdered villain, whose pathetic talent, reckless reputation, and powerful enemies have already guaranteed an early death. He recognizes the world immediately. His cousin is a fallen destiny protagonist, while Shang Chen occupies the disposable antagonist role. Escaping that ending requires more than family wealth, because the original body barely reached the fifth stage through expensive medicine. Then the opportunity critical hit system binds to him and turns generosity into the most outrageous cultivation cheat imaginable. Whenever Jiang Chen gives away a treasure or opportunity, the system returns a stronger reward through a random multiplier. 100-year herb can become a 1,000-year treasure, while one ordinary gift may suddenly trigger 100-fold or even greater return. His first move is not stealing the protagonist's fortune, but protecting Jiang Yu and repairing the divided Jiang family. That decision earns trust, multiplies his resources, and begins transforming a so-called trash villain into an unstoppable hidden genius. Soon, Jiang Chen gains legendary double pupils, 9 internal energy cyclones, a growth technique, and power far beyond his visible realm. Yet every breakthrough creates new enemies, from treacherous servants and rival clans to arrogant elders of the Luoyun sect. To survive, Jiang Chen must reward his allies, conceal his true strength, and destroy the script that expects every villain to lose. Jiang Chen wakes with a splitting headache as memories belonging to the body's former owner crash into his mind. He is now the second young master of the Jiang family, one of Divine Wind City's 4 dominant clans. This martial heaven world respects cultivation above everything, allowing true experts to overturn seas and challenge the heavens. His father wasn't the head of the family, but his power was second only to the patriarch. The original body only reached the 5th body refinement stage because his wealthy family kept feeding him expensive medicine. During a drunken night, someone injected the original Jiang Chen with poison and left him to die before dawn. Because the assassin may return after discovering the failure, Jiang Chen knows he needs strength immediately. His transmigration finally pays off when a mysterious interface appears and confirms that he has received a system. The opportunity critical hit system binds successfully and explains that generosity will now generate multiplied cultivation rewards. Every opportunity Jiang Chen gifts to another person can return a better treasure through a random critical multiplier. Even the system's minimum return doubles the original value, while lucky gifts can trigger vastly larger multipliers. A frantic tapping at his door cut his thoughts short. He was smiling, but Jiang Chen noticed his eyes flicker with a flash of shock and darkness when he saw him standing there alive. Jiang Chen frightens Qin Ming into explaining the disturbance, already suspicious of the servant's carefully hidden hostility. Qin Ming reports that Yun Shishui arrived with a Luoyun sect elder to cancel her engagement with Jiang Yu. The servant openly calls Jiang Yu trash, revealing how little respect the fallen heir receives inside his own household. Jiang Chen instantly recognizes the classic broken engagement opening and realizes Jiang Yu is the story's destiny protagonist, a beautiful fiancé showing up to break the engagement. He was the main character of a destiny story. He slaps Qin Ming across the face for insulting Jiang Yu, shocking the treacherous servant with his sudden change. He spun halfway around, clutching his cheek in shock. Even if his cultivation has dropped, he is still the successor of the Jiang family. Jiang Chen's killing intent makes Qin Ming understand that one more insult toward Jiang Yu could cost the servant his life. He hit the ground hard, kneeling before him with terror in his eyes. He knew death when he saw it in a man's eyes. Qin Ming kept his head pressed to the floor, but when he looked up again, his face was a mask of pure fear. He was good at hiding his true self. Instead, a strange old man sat there looking down on everyone. Next to him sat a young woman in a flowing purple robe, a perfect heart-shaped face, painted lips, and eyes that looked like they belonged in a painting. This was Yun Shishui, the eldest daughter of the Yun family. Honestly, the Jiang family genetics were top tier. Even though Jiang Yu's cultivation had dropped below his, he still carried himself with a quiet dignity. It looked like the negotiations were already reaching a climax. He looked a bit weathered, but he was still incredibly handsome. Inside was a 100-year-old red-blood Lingji. Even for a man of his father's status, getting this must have cost him a fortune. However, the Yun family must return every single engagement gift the Jiang family sent. A group of servants marched in carrying trays filled with glowing jewelry and spiritual accessories. The Jiang family had clearly spent a massive amount of wealth back then. When they opened it, it was overflowing with spirit stones. Yun Shishue noticed their hunger and her lip curled in disdain. Yun Shishue arrogantly presents an extra chest of spirit stones as compensation, expecting wealth to erase the public humiliation. Yun Shishue briefly panics when Zhang Yu demands the jade pendant his late mother left as an engagement token. She looked uncomfortable for a moment, but then she masked it with a haughty, indifferent expression. He looked about 20 and stared at Zhang Yu with pure contempt, though he looked at Yun Shishue with obvious adoration. His uncle, the patriarch, looked like he was swallowing fire, but he didn't speak. He wanted to jump in and mock Zhang Yu. Zhang Qin refuses to let the humiliation continue, while the silent Zhang elders watch him defend his cousin. With them staying silent, the other elders followed suit, watching the drama unfold. The temperature in the room seemed to drop several degrees. Offending the Yun family won't do the Zhangs any favors. She was betting that the Jiang family was too weak to fight back. Honestly, he didn't care about the broken engagement. Yun Shishue meant nothing to him, and the feeling was clearly mutual. But her trying to keep the jade pendant his mother left behind that crossed the line. Zhang Yu suppressed his rage and spoke one last time. She slammed her hand on the table and stood up, her eyes flashing with unmistakable murderous intent. Zhang Yu writes a single word of annulment, publicly rejecting Yun Shishue before she can define him as the discarded party. When she saw the word annulled, staring back at her, she froze. Her black hair whipped around her as her aura surged. Ice crystals began to form in the air around her, and the temperature in the hall plummeted. Up on the high seat, the old man from the sect finally opened his eyes. Ice crystals formed on her arms as she lunged at Zhang Yu. Yun Shishue was at the 6th stage of body refinement and possessed an ice physique. She could take down a 9th stage fighter easily. He scrambled to intervene, his face turning pale. He knew Zhang Yu was only at the 1st stage of body refinement. A crushing weight slammed down on everyone in the Jiang family. He blocked the brunt of the attack, but the shockwave was still massive. Zhang Yu let out a spray of blood and was sent flying. He tried to move, but the old man's pressure intensified, locking him in place again. He turned a hateful glare toward the girl. Yun Shishue blames Zhang Yu for his injuries, while the black-robed disciple mocks the fallen heir for surviving. A Loyun disciple moves to finish the wounded Zhang Yu, but a calmer sect elder stops the murder from escalating. The calmer Loyun elder prevents another attack, unwilling to create public gossip by murdering a wounded junior. Yun Shishue looked disappointed that Zhang Yu wasn't dead, but she hid it quickly. She was annoyed she hadn't used her full strength earlier. But with the elder speaking up, she couldn't strike again. Yun Shishue gave Zhang Yu one last cold look before following him without a hint of regret. As Zhang Chen watched the three of them walk away, Zhang Chen couldn't keep his mouth shut. He looked back at him and let out a sharp, mocking laugh. The man in black laughed along with him as they disappeared into the distance. He seemed to be remembering what Zhang Chen had just said to him, and Zhang Chen could see the resolve hardening in his gaze once again. He tried to speak, but a fit of coughing cut him off. The family head finally snapped out of his daze. He quickly pulled out several healing pills and forced them into Zhang Yu's mouth. Even with his status, he couldn't possibly gather the rare spiritual herbs needed in such a short time. Zhang Wangkong looked up, and when Zhang Chen opened it, a blood-red Lingji mushroom sat inside, radiating a powerful spiritual aura. Zhang Chen offers his own 100-year blood Lingye to heal Zhang Yu, sacrificing the treasure prepared for his weak constitution. That herb was meant to fix his own weak constitution. Then a look of realization and relief washed over his face. His gesture reminds the divided elders that the Zhang descendants share one bloodline and cannot survive internal resentment. Patriarch Zhang Wangkong accepts the Lingji with deep emotion and recognizes Zhang Chen's sincere effort to reunite the family. The Sist stirs the gift and returns a 1,000-year blood Lingji through a 10-fold critical reward. Zhang Chen repairs the family conflict, earns his uncle's gratitude, and receives a treasure vastly better than the one he surrendered. First, word got out that the Yun family came to break the engagement, but now the story was that Zhang Yu had been the one to dump her. The contrast was too much for the locals to handle. It looked like it had been soaked in fresh blood. Every pore in his body seemed to open up just from the scent system. The system explains that the 1,000-year Lingji will cleanse Zhang Chen's body without the deadly violence of inferior methods. There will be some slight pain, but no risk of exploding. To his surprise, the herb tasted sweet, not bitter at all. Suddenly, a wave of agonizing pain ripped through him. The 1,000-year Lingji drives Zhangchen from the 5th stage to the peak of body refinement in one brutal surge. 3 hours passed before the pain finally ebbed away. The clear water instantly turned murky, and a few fish actually floated to the surface, belly up from the stench. After cleansing his body, Zhangchen tests his power and shatters a distant boulder with a casual strike. Zhangchen let out a long breath, feeling the raw power vibrating in his bones. His face was dark, his eyes filled with a cruel, ruthless light. He put on that same fawning, pathetic smile he always wore. The guy had been missing all morning, and now he shows up right when Zhang Chen finished his breakthrough. It was clear his masters were getting impatient. Aside from Zhang Yu and himself, the other cousins were untalented or had abandoned martial arts for literature. Zhang Chen walked slowly to the door and creaked it open. Ever since Zhang Chen woke up, he seemed to sense that his personality had changed. Qinming soon returns with news about Heavenly Fragrance Pavilion, following the enemy plan to lure Zhang Chen outside. The previous owner of this body had seen her face once and had been hooked ever since. He sent people every day to track her schedule. Qin Ming reports that Xiao Yun is already waiting at the pavilion, making the invitation feel even more suspicious. Xiao Yun has prepared an extravagant gift for Shangguan Mingyu, intending to claim Divine Wind City's most celebrated beauty. He knew exactly how much the old Zhang Chen cared about that woman. Pretending to take the bait, Zhang Chen vows to teach Xiao Yun a lesson he will never forget. As Zhang Chen walked away, Qinming looked up, a triumphant conspiratorial smirk crossing his face. Now, the moment Zhang Chen wake up, Xiao Yun is already trying to bait him again. Zhang Chen accepts the invitation while privately wondering which side will end the night, buried in the dirt. A pavilion attendant welcomes Zhang Chen with suspicious enthusiasm and immediately guides him toward the private upper floor. They were attractive, sure, but compared to the memory of Shangguan Mingyu, who looked like a goddess descended from the heavens, they were nothing. The Heavenly Fragrance Pavilion is packed with wealthy spectators, hoping to hear Shangguan Mingyu play the zither. Zhang Chen enters without revealing his breakthrough, allowing Xiao Yun and Bai Hongfei to believe their bait has worked. The first floor was packed with people who had paid 10 gold coins just for a seat to watch the performance. Next to him was a man in an expensive silk robe with a cold, arrogant expression. That was Bai Hongfei, the third son of the Bai family. Birds of a feather really do flock together. Both of them had the faces of classic villains. Xiao Yun flatters Zhang Chen, while quietly steering the conversation toward the Jiang family's valuable spirit stone vein. Zhang Chen had a new appreciation for Xiao Yun's shamelessness. After a brief silence, his expression grew serious. On the surface, things might look fine, but who knows what's happening in the shadows? The Zhang family must be full of people unhappy with Zhang Wangkong right now. Sensing his look, he gave a slight stiff nod. The two of them exchanged a quick, triumphant look. Their real objective is 60% of the Zhang family's spirit stone supply, a concession that would slowly ruin the clan. In this world, spirit stones weren't just currency. If Zhang Chen gave away 60% of their supply, the Zhang family would be ruined within years. The pavilion suddenly quiets when attendants announce that Shangguan Mingyu is about to appear. Her public announcement is a graceful refusal, though the rejected suitors still pretend to misunderstand it. Then Xiao Yun burst into a loud fake laugh. When he looked up again, the malice was hidden behind a mask of friendliness. While Xiao Yun performs false friendship, Bai Hongfei remains quiet and watches the pavilion crowd gather below. She wore a flowing white dress, her long black hair cascading over her shoulders. Her eyes were like stars in the night sky, drawing everyone's gaze. She stepped into the top floor booth area and a screen was lowered, leaving the crowd with only a blurry silhouette. Men were shouting, claiming they would die happy just for a moment alone with her. He clearly didn't have a poetic bone in his body. Bai Hongfei, however, had a confident smirk on his lips. Xiao Yun turned to look at him, probably expecting him to complain along with him. The sound of a zither drifted from the private booth. Her mastery of the zither was strong enough to tug at a person's heartstrings. If she wanted to, she could probably influence a person's mind with her playing. For the poetry challenge, Zhang Chen chooses an immortal verse from Earth called Prelude to the Water Melody. They turned back to their own papers, trying to recall the mood of the music as they wrote. Soon, the little maid returned with a tray. Xiao Yun practically shoved his paper onto the tray, making sure it was in a prominent spot. Miss, these men call themselves scholars, but Zhang Chen could write better than this. Mingyu's maid treats the submissions as light entertainment until Zhang Chen's poem completely changes her expression. The maid gasps after reading Zhang Chen's poem, immediately drawing Shangguan Mingyu's attention to the unexpected masterpiece. Then her expression shifted into something deeper, a mix of disbelief and intense curiosity. It was written by the second young master of the Jiang family. For a girl like her to have such a reaction, the poem had to be extraordinary. As her eyes scanned the lines, her breath hitched. Its moon imagery carries a second meaning tied to Mingyu's name, making the brilliant poem feel intensely personal. Back in the main hall, the tension was thick. Xiao Yun was smirking, convinced his ghost-written masterpiece had won. He didn't say a word, but his posture suggested he was already the victor. He began walking toward the private area before the announcement was even made. The maid finally announces that Zhang Chen won the poetry challenge and will receive a private audience with her mistress. Even Xiao Yun took a step back, conceding that Bai Hongfei's literary skills were superior to his own. He had the door halfway open, ready to make his grand entrance. But the invitation wasn't for him. Zhang Chen walked past the stunned crowd and stopped right in front of Bai Hongfei. He glared at Shaoling, his voice dropping to a low, icy growl. She crossed her arms and looked him dead in the eye. When she finished, the room was deathly quiet. Once the sage recites Zhang Chen's poem aloud, the entire hall falls silent because its superiority is impossible to dispute. His fists were clenched so tight, his knuckles turned white. A small pavilion nestled near a quiet stream, far away from the noise of the city. Meanwhile, back in the booth, the sound of glass shattering echoed. Bai Hongfei had swept everything off the table in a fit of fury. The door creaked open and a man slipped inside, bowing low. Qin Ming explains that Zhang Chen defended Zhang Yu during the broken engagement, proving the young master's behavior has changed. Qin Ming began to shake, sweat pouring down his face. The servant's report darkens Xiao Yun's expression, because the obedient fool he expected to manipulate is disappearing. Xiao Yun slammed his hand on the table. Qin Ming collapsed to his knees, his head hitting the floor. Qin Ming kneels in terror, while Xiao Yun and Bai Hongfei redesign their trap around Zhang Chen's unexpected caution. They conclude that Zhang Chen has changed substantially, making a direct and deniable ambush safer than further manipulation. He tapped his fingers on the table, in a steady, rhythmic beat. The Zhang family is already in chaos because of the broken engagement with the Yun family. He looked at Bai Hongfei with a sharp grin. The Zhang family will jump to that conclusion themselves. After all, they've offended the Luoyun sect. A slow, dark smile spread across Bai Hongfei's face. Xiao Yun decides the moment has come to kill Zhang Chen and shifts his attention toward the trembling Qin Ming. The conspirators ordered Qin Ming to personally lead the killers, ensuring the traitorous servants shares responsibility for the murder. Xiao Yun and Bai Hongfei arranged for Qin Ming to lead 2 cultivators at the 5th level of the body refinement realm. Once the trap was set, the 2 young masters slipped out of the heavenly fragrance pavilion to avoid suspicion. A soft chime of wind bells rang out, followed by the haunting melodic notes of a zither. The roof was open to the night sky, framing the bright moon perfectly. In the center of the room sat a woman in a white dress. She looked up, her eyes like a sea of stars reflecting the moonlight. Zhang Chen nodded politely and took a seat, making himself comfortable. She had met the old Zhang Chen before and seen the way he used to look at her with a hunger that was hard to miss. After a moment of silence, she pulled out a piece of paper. Shangguan Mingyu admits she never expected the notorious playboy to create a poem capable of moving her for so deeply. Using the poetry of his ancestors from Earth to impress people in this world felt like a cheat code. But Zhang Chen wasn't complaining. As soon as the words left his mouth, she flicked her wrist. To move objects with such precision meant her cultivation was, at least at the divine sea realm. Anyone with bad intentions was probably already buried in an unmarked grave. She read the lines of the water melody, the famous poem about the moon and the longing for loved ones. She read it all, her voice trailing off. It was growing stronger, surging with a sudden intense energy. Suddenly, a system notification rang in his head. While Mingyu studies the verse, its insight pushes her into a genuine cultivation epiphany. Before Zhang Chen's eyes, the system treats Zhang Chen's poem as an opportunity gift and compensates him with 3 stored epiphany chances. A long time passed before she finally opened her eyes. A flash of pure joy crossed her face. She stood up and gave him a deep, respectful bow. She slowly raised her hand and removed her veil. Mingyu removes her veil after the epiphany, revealing flawless features that completely justify her legendary reputation. Her smile was still there, radiant and unsettlingly beautiful. Jiang Chen let a calm, faint smile play on his lips. She let out a laugh that sounded like silver bells. In that moment, it felt like 100 flowers had bloomed at once in the small room. She looked like a goddess who had descended from the heavens. Shaoling, the maid, returned with a jar of wine. She set it down quickly and disappeared again without a word. The conversation flowed naturally, and the stiff formality between them began to melt away. As their guarded conversation becomes playful, Mingyu directly tests whether Jiang Chen's interest in her is sincere. A graceful lady is a fit mate for a gentleman. Jiang Chen answers with an elegant line about a graceful lady and a worthy gentleman, deepening Mingyu's fascination. Before Jiang Chen could say anything, she let out a light, forced laugh. Her fingers danced across the strings, and a hollow, ethereal melody filled the air. The moon was bright, and the stars were sparse. Jiang Chen eventually excuses himself, sensing that remaining longer could expose both Mingyu and his hidden intentions. She looked surprised for a moment, then nodded softly. She watched his figure descending the mountain, her eyes filled with a complex emotion Jiang Chen couldn't have guessed. Shangguan Mingyu nodded, then slowly shook her head. Her gaze fell on the table where Jiang Chen had left the poem. Then they vanished into the shadows of the pavilion. Even at midnight, a crowd was still gathered outside the Heavenly Fragrance Pavilion. Outside, the crowd cannot believe Divine Wind City's infamous playboy wrote the poem that won Mingyu's private invitation. They didn't realize Jiang Chen had already left through a back exit. Her strength was formidable, and she carried an air of nobility that didn't fit this place. Suddenly, a faint chill ran down his spine. After leaving through a hidden exit, Jiang Chen senses the ambushers Qin Ming positioned along the dark road. After a few tense seconds, the people hiding in the darkness couldn't take it anymore. Qin Ming steps from the darkness with two hired cultivators, confirming Jiang Chen's suspicion that the servant betrayed him. He stood tall, his face twisted with arrogance and malice. Qin Ming finally admits that he served the family all along and participated in poisoning the original Jiang Chen. When Qin Ming reveals his betrayal, Jiang Chen calmly closes the distance instead of begging the killers for mercy. Jiang Chen started walking toward the three of them. In his mind, Jiang Chen was just a body refinement fifth-stage cultivator who had used pills to cheat his way up. He was only at the third stage, but he wasn't afraid of him at all. He lunged forward, his back foot digging into the dirt. Under the stunned gazes of the two men in black, Jiang Chen caught his fist in his palm. He started to struggle like a trapped animal. Realizing his arm was stuck, he swung his left leg in a vicious kick toward his ribs. His foot met his midair with a sickening crack. Bones shattered instantly. The two men in black finally realized something was wrong. Qin Ming saw them coming, and a flicker of hope returned to his twisted face. Jiang Chen, they are both at the fifth stage of body refinement. His face was a mask of agony and hatred. The two attackers reached him, their legs sweeping toward his head with the force of a gale. Jiang Chen overwhelms all three ambushers, leaving the wounded traitor horrified by strength that should have been impossible. He forgot his own pain for a second. The reality of his situation finally sank in. He collapsed to his knees, his body trembling violently. He started banging his head against the ground. One wounded ambusher still threatens Jiang Chen, unable to accept that their carefully selected target has crushed them. He only cared about the man standing over him. Before he could finish his lie, Jiang Chen reached out and grabbed him by the throat. He thrashed, his hands clawing at his arm. His body gave a final weak twitch, and the light faded from his eyes. Two more strikes, and two more bodies hit the floor. It was a place where the strong ate the weak. If no one touches him, Jiang Chen touched no one. Jiang Chen whispered to the empty room. Meanwhile, at the Xiao family mansion, Xiao Yun was pacing his room. Well, Xiao Yun demanded as a scout entered. Back at the pavilion, Xiao Yun grows uneasy when Qin Ming fails to return, and Jiang Chen remains nowhere in sight. But when Jiang Chen reached the site, their men were already dead. The Jiang family must have sent hidden guards. He dismissed the scout, telling him to send a message to the third young master of the Bai family. Jiang Chen gives the dead Qin Ming no further thought, while Xiao Yun stays unusually quiet for the next 3 days. Before leaving his room one evening, Jiang Chen receives another family summons and prepares for a difficult conversation. Jiang Chen needed to enter cultivation for a while. Jiang Chen realizes that releasing his obsession with forced power helped him understand a more natural cultivation path. He headed straight for his own courtyard to enter cultivation, leaving him standing there in the quiet. After a few heartbeats, the door creaked open. The system recognizes that insight as another opportunity and converts the breakthrough into a valuable reward. Without it, Zhang Chen might not have been so lucky this time. Zhang Chen just gave him a small smile and shook his head. He brought out several jars of wine, and they started drinking. The wine in this world wasn't incredibly strong, but they were drinking a lot of it, and his tolerance from his past life had always been terrible. 3 days ago, he was only at the first stage of body refinement. He had jumped 4 levels in a matter of days. He radiated a level of confidence Zhang Chen hadn't seen before. He was going to rise like a comet. He stood up and looked at the sky, his gaze distant. Zhang Yu believes Divine Wind City is too small for their future, especially with 2 major sects arriving to recruit disciples. Zhang Chen knew he'd never pick the other one since that's where his ex-fiancée Yun Shui was headed. Zhang Yu promises to gather herbs and pills for his brothers, determined to rebuild the family with his restored fortune. Zhang Chen nodded, not wanting to argue, but Zhang Chen kept staring at him. The fact that he told him that much was enough. He even called a servant mid-con conversation to go out and buy the herbs he needed. Zhang Chen didn't bother using his energy to clear the alcohol from his system. When Zhang Chen opened his door, a servant was standing there, hand raised as if he was about to knock. As soon as Zhang Chen arrived, a burly, thick-set teenager ran up to him with a wide, honest grin. His father, Zhang Wan, was his third uncle, a laid-back man who didn't care about politics or power, and his uncle had high hopes for him. Most of the younger generation had pathetic cultivation levels. If this continued, the Jiang family would be swallowed whole by rival forces. The Jiang family elders gather as Zhang Yu prepares to reveal how completely his former cultivation has returned. His uncle, Zhang Wankong, the head of the family, walked in, followed by a group of elders. They had heard rumors that Zhang Chen had given Zhang Yu life-saving medicine, but they hadn't believed it. The banquet began, but the air was heavy. Everyone kept their heads down, eating in silence. After a while, Zhang Wankong cleared his throat. The patriarch warns that Yun Shui may unite rival clans against them after the humiliation of the annulment. Otherwise, the Jiang family would be mourning today. One of the elders looked up, his voice grim. They can't fight 3 major clans at once. The hot-tempered third elder pounds the table, demanding that the family resist rather than accept endless humiliation. They can migrate the clan if they have to. The elders finally unite behind Zhang Yu, declaring that the Jiang family will never surrender simply to avoid powerful enemies. If the Yun family strikes first, they fight to the death. He looked at his father with absolute confidence. A tiny Yin family won't be a threat for long. Zhang Yu releases his recovered aura, filling the council chamber with shock before joy spreads through the family. Yun Shui tried to kill him, but it was a blessing in disguise. Zhang Yu reveals that his talent returned through a hidden inheritance, giving the clan a believable explanation for his recovery. He turned to the elders, his expression turning sharp. No one outside this room can know about Zhang Yu's recovery. A genius returning from the brink was a miracle, but it also made him a target. For the first time in weeks, the elders were actually smiling. Because Zhang Yu already has a plan, the elder agreed to remain discreet and avoid premature conflict. The gloom evaporated, replaced by a spark of hope. With unity restored, the patriarch ends the grim discussion and orders wine brought out for a genuine family celebration. The 3 of them clinked glasses and downed the wine in one go. Uncle Zhang Wankong turned to the elders, his face flushing with excitement. With the patriarch's approval, the elders drink together and celebrate as weeks of suffocating tension finally dissolve. The hall was filled with the sound of clinking cups as the celebration truly began. He had a calm, faint smile on his face. Zhang Chen had to admit, Zhang Yu's decision to reveal his recovery today surprised him. But it was a brilliant move. By revealing his restored talent, Zhang Yu stabilizes clan morale and reunites relatives who had nearly abandoned him. He had promised to help him strengthen his body. Zhang Daoxin looked up, his face covered in grease and confusion. Zhang Daoxin's enormous appetite earns a playful slap from his father, briefly replacing the council's tension with laughter. Zhang Wan looked like he was about to have a stroke. Being invited by him was a massive opportunity. Seeing his father's hand rising again, Zhang Daoxin scrambled out of his seat. The rest of the family couldn't help but laugh at the sight. Zhang Daoxin finished his chicken in 3 bites and wiped his mouth. They were filled with a deep crimson liquid that was churning and boiling like a volcano. A wave of intense heat hit him instantly, carrying a strange, potent aroma. Later, Zhang Yu prepares 2 boiling medicinal baths for Zhang Chen and Zhang Daoxin inside his private quarters. He pulled 2 porcelain bottles from his robe and handed one to each of them. If people knew Zhang Chen had jumped that high overnight, it would bring too much unwanted attention to the family. Besides, Zhang Chen was genuinely curious if this medicinal bath would work on him. If it makes him stronger and makes his dad happy, a little pain is nothing. His face turned pale, and he tried to jump out. But Zhang Yu's hand clamped down on his shoulder. Dawing gritted his teeth, tears pricking his eyes. He sat back down, his body shaking as he continued to howl in agony. The heat was intense, like needles stabbing into every pore. Seeing that they were stable, Zhang Yu quietly left the room and shut the door behind him. Floating on the surface of the water were thick black clumps of waste. Even though there were fewer impurities in his tub than in Dawen's, Zhang Chen could feel his physical strength surging. His water was pitch black, and his skin was coated in thick sludge. He gave him a quick wave and dove headfirst into the pond. Zhang Daoxin emerges from the medicinal bath, stronger and visibly slimmer, as his dormant physique begins consuming energy. Zhang Daoxin gains a minor realm and retains enough medicinal power to approach another breakthrough soon. He pulled out a porcelain bottle and poured the pill into his palm. The moment it hit his stomach, a massive wave of energy exploded inside him. His aura climbed higher and higher until he reached the 5th level of the body refinement realm. Zhang Daoxin needs far more energy than ordinary cultivators because his unawakened Taiji divine body constantly devours his resources. He looked disappointed that he hadn't hit the 6th level, but he quickly forced a smile. Gaining 2 minor realms in one day was still a miracle. Zhang Chen gives his own 3rd-grade pill to Zhang Daoxin, valuing his brother's awakening over 1 minor personal advance. The medicinal bath drives Zhang Daoxin into the 6th body refinement stage before he even uses the pill. Jiang Xu is stunned that Zhang Chen advanced before even using the pill prepared for his breakthrough. Zhang Yu tries to return the unused pill, unaware that Zhang Chen can profit far more by gifting it away. The system triggers a 1,000-fold critical reward and returns a 9th-grade, 9-aperture golden core. Zhang Chen opens the interface in disbelief, realizing one sincere family gift has produced a legendary treasure. The core contains enough energy to make Zhang Chen nearly untouchable against anyone within the same cultivation realm. Before using the core, Zhang Chen keeps his visible strength near the 6th body refinement stage to avoid suspicion. Zhang Yu walked into the light, a satisfied smile on his face. Zhang Yu confirms that both brothers absorbed the medicinal baths perfectly and gained foundations beyond their previous limits. Zhang Chen downplays his own progress as luck, keeping the system and his vastly superior foundation completely hidden. Zhang Yu warns that pills should support cultivation rather than replace discipline, even after both brothers advance successfully. The brothers understand that medicine can assist a breakthrough, but genuine strength still depends on a stable foundation. Usually, cultivators only used pills when they hit a bottleneck or if their foundation was already rock solid. Since Zhang Yu seemed satisfied with that, Zhang Chen didn't push further. He couldn't find a way to jump into the conversation, so he just stood there quietly. He was finally feeling what it meant for blood to be thicker than water. This life, without constant scheming and backstabbing, felt good. A servant interrupts with a letter from Shaoling, announcing that Shangguan Mingyu will soon leave Divine Wind City. As soon as it touched his hand, a faint, elegant fragrance drifted toward his nose. The message invites Zhang Chen to visit before Mingyu's departure, forcing him to confront the original body's lingering attachment. At the bottom right corner was the name Shangguan Mingyu. A strange sense of reluctance, almost like grief, bubbled up in his chest. Any normal man would be moved by her. Zhang Chen stood up and walked toward his bedroom. Only by resolving this obsession could his soul perfectly fuse with this body. The moment the pill hit his stomach, a surge of pure violent energy exploded through his limbs. When Zhang Chen finally swallows the system's 9th-grade core, terrifying energy erupts through every meridian in his body. Zhang Chen heard a faint sound from within his bones. Even as Zhang Chen tried to refine the energy, the wild medicinal power rampaged through his meridians. Zhang Chen gripped his mind with iron will and circulated his cultivation technique, guiding the flood of energy toward his lower abdomen. Finally, after 2 hours of agony, the first internal cyclone formed. Climb slowed down once. Zhang Chen hit the peak of level 3. With the first one done, the rest became easier. A massive funnel of spiritual qi formed in the sky above the Jiang estate. But as the energy filled him, his expression changed from triumph to shock. As the nine cyclones stabilized, his cultivation fell from the peak of level 3 all the way back down to level 1. In the divine sea realm, a cultivator can release their qi externally to strike from a distance or form a protective barrier around their body. The system confirms Jiang Chen's breakthrough into the divine sea realm and releases a special advancement gift package. The core opens 9 internal cyclones, each capable of storing and refining energy, like an independent cultivation engine. The system adds a 5th-grade cultivation method to Jiang Chen's breakthrough rewards, alongside the newly opened cyclones. Instead of accepting a shallow breakthrough, Jiang Chen repeatedly compresses his foundation until the divine sea becomes extraordinarily stable. Jiang Chen studies the rewards, surprised that the system describes the Chaos Creation Manual as only 5th grade. Its displayed grade initially seems disappointing until the system explains that the technique evolves with its cultivator. The grade of this manual depends entirely on the strength of the cultivator. The system confirms that the Chaos Creation Manual can grow without a fixed ceiling, making it better than any ordinary graded art. This reward can only be used by the host. It cannot be gifted or transferred to others. If Jiang Chen couldn't gift it, Jiang Chen couldn't trigger a reward multiplier. But then Shen shook the thought away. It was the complete essence of the manual. His cultivation settles at the 2nd level of the divine sea realm, far beyond what anyone in the family suspects. After stabilizing his aura, Jiang Chen turns to the 2nd breakthrough reward and begins integrating the double pupils. The system guarantees perfect integration, allowing the legendary eyes to function as naturally as an inborn bloodline. When Jiang Chen opened his eyes again, Jiang Chen wasn't in his room anymore. A man with long, flowing black hair was being besieged by a group of warriors. Even faced with such overwhelming odds, the black-haired man remained calm. Every move he made carried world-shattering power. When he snapped them open again, his single pupils had split into 2. The warriors surrounding him didn't even have time to scream before they were erased from existence, turned into nothingness in a matter of seconds. Yet the sound of the thunder only grew louder and more aggressive. In that moment, Jiang Chen felt like the mountains and rivers were flipping upside down. It felt like he could tear the entire world apart just by willing it. In the sky above the estate, hidden from everyone else, a chaotic land appeared. A massive green lotus rose from the void, propping up the heavens. A towering, majestic figure appeared on a betrothing, sitting above the 9 heavens. He looked down at the world with cold indifference. When Jiang Chen looked in a mirror, Jiang Chen saw his pupils had overlapped. The breakthrough gift integrates legendary double pupils, granting Jiang Chen perception associated with ancient supreme experts. It was like a massive department store for cultivators. Techniques, secret arts, weapons, bloodlines. Jiang Chen checked his balance and saw Jiang Chen had 113 points. The system affords opportunity points according to each multiplier, giving Jiang Chen a 2nd currency for techniques and treasures. However, to prevent the host from exploiting the system, items gifted from the store will not generate opportunity points. Furthermore, this can only be triggered once a month. If there weren't any limits, Jiang Chen could just buy cheap stuff, gift it to his servants, and farm legendary rewards all day without ever leaving his house. Yellow grade, peak tier, Wandering Dragon Spear, 300 points. Mystic grade, low tier, Evil Breaking Fist, 500 points. The best part, since Jiang Chen bought it for himself, the system could transfer the knowledge directly into his mind. It was the perfect way to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Across the city, Mingyu's maid Shaoling enters an elegant loft and finds her mistress studying the moonlit window. Hearing the door, she turned her head slowly. Her gaze landed on a piece of paper, and a small unconscious smile touched her lips. It was the poem Jiang Chen had written. She stopped herself, but the point was clear. To Shaoling, liking someone just because of a poem was reckless. Across the city, Shangguan Mingyu studies Jiang Chen's poem Beneath the Moon while thinking about the man behind it. Shaoling listened in silence, but her worry only grew. Her maid warns that Mingyu's powerful family would never approve a relationship with a minor city's young master. She felt a surge of pity for her mistress. Mingyu still has a choice before her family completes the arrangement, but every available path carries serious consequences. Mingyu understands that hiding cannot defeat her arranged future, yet her feelings for Jiang Chen continue growing. Mingyu knows her family can locate her anywhere, so running away would only delay the arranged marriage. Xiaoling started to cry, her voice choking up as she promised to stay by her side forever. Her fingers brushed the strings, and a soft melancholy melody filled the room. Zhang Chen opened his door and saw a familiar figure waiting in the courtyard. After a moment of silence, his father spoke. Zhang Chen had been planning to ask, but Zhang Chen was glad he brought it up first. Zhang Chen's father finally explains why the family refuses to discuss the mysterious disappearance of Zhang Chen's mother. They were a prominent clan in Tanu City, but they were being suppressed by rival forces back then. He smiled at the memory, but it faded quickly. He sent his best guards to protect her instead. She was gone for half a month without a single word. When his father investigated her home years earlier, he found the entire clan destroyed and no trace of his missing wife. He stared at him, his face a mix of disbelief and sudden hope. Seeing how serious Zhang Chen was, his father didn't push him about his hidden power. He took a long moment to steady himself before he spoke again. His father admits that every search for Zhang Chen's mother failed, leaving no body message or reliable clue. He looked away, his eyes clouding with memory and self-reproach. Between the family's silence and the cruel rumors in the city, he had spiraled into becoming a useless playboy. Strangely, no one had bothered the Zhang family since the massacre. He looked at him, a look of deep satisfaction on his face, especially after feeling the power Zhang Chen had unleashed. He pulled out 2 jars of wine and placed a hairpin on the table across from him. Zhang Chen changed into a clean white robe and slipped out of the Jiang estate, disappearing into the darkness. The streets were still busy, with shops open and cultivators drinking in the taverns. If they were this eager to die, Zhang Chen was happy to give them the chance. Meanwhile, an enemy scout reaches the Xiao's estate and reports that Zhang Chen has left home under cover of darkness. Xiao Yun immediately mobilizes Bai Hongfei and 2 8th-stage guards, believing the isolated road guarantees a clean kill. Xiao Yun orders another messenger to summon Bai Hongfei, ensuring both rival heirs participate in the ambush. Once the scout left, Xiao Yun burst into a manic laugh. When he thought of his brother Xiao Feng, his face filled with pride. Ever since Zhang Yu's cultivation had failed, even with the sudden rise of Yun Shishui, Xiao Yun was certain his brother was unbeatable. Zhang Qin nodded and headed for the 2nd floor while she stayed behind, closing the door and retreating to the lower rooms. She was dressed in a white gown, and the room was filled with a faint, delicate fragrance. She seemed to be in a good mood as she poured him a cup of tea. They sat in silence for a while, just enjoying the atmosphere. Zhang Chen catches hidden bitterness in Mingyu's eyes. Realizing her sudden departure carries obligations she cannot freely refuse. She composed herself quickly and broke the silence. His hand moved instinctively, the ink flowing onto the paper as she watched him in silence. Zhang Chen writes another earth verse for Mingyu. Letting its imagery express feelings, he refuses to state directly. Before the ambush unfolds, Zhang Chen visits Mingyu and presents the musical cultivation art purchased specifically for her. Zhang Chen had written those words without thinking, but they were the truth. Mingyu is visibly relieved that Zhang Chen came before her forced departure, despite trying to hide how much it matters. She smiled again, but her eyes remained lonely. She knew her family's strength, and to her, the Zhang family was nothing in comparison. Her skin was incredibly soft, like touching fine silk. She froze for a second, a deep blush creeping up her neck, but she didn't pull away. Zhang Chen hesitated. Then Zhang Chen pulled her into a hug. She reached into her sleeve and handed him a small silk pouch. Shaoling enters with refreshments and freezes when she sees her normally composed mistress held in Zhang Chen's arms. Mingyu blushes deeply after Zhang Chen's intimate gesture, then recovers her composure faster than he expects. She saw her mistress's frantic signals and forced herself to calm down. Mingyu clears her throat and sends the flustered maid downstairs before the awkward silence can deepen. After a while, she looked up, her shyness replaced by a gentle smile. She sat at her zither, her fingers brushing the strings. She looked focused, her fingers dancing across the instrument. When the final note faded, the silence felt heavy. It felt like 100 flowers blooming at once. It was the 9 swirls of heavenly sound Zhang Chen had traded for in the system shop. She looked curious as she took the book. The 9 swirls of heavenly sound is comparable to a profound technique, making Zhang Chen's gift almost impossibly generous. Mingyu initially tries to reject the priceless technique, worried that accepting it would make her feelings impossible to hide. Her excitement escapes before she can contain it. leaving Mingyu visibly embarrassed by how much the gift means. She didn't care where it came from or how Jiang Chen got it. In a place like Divine Wind City, the strongest martial techniques were barely upper-grade yellow rank. She knew when to ask questions and when to keep her mouth shut. They likely had Earth-rank techniques back at their main estate. Mingju explains that her family already owns Earth-rank arts, but almost none are designed for a music cultivator. Because music cultivators are exceptionally rare, the Nine Swirls technique perfectly matches the path Mingyu has chosen. She stared at him, her eyes shimmering, a soft blush creeping back onto her cheeks. Within seconds, she was completely absorbed in the text. The system returns a low-grade Earth-rank dragon. Elephant heaven-shattering fist through a 100-fold critical reward. A long silence followed, as Shangguan Mingyu studied the manual. When she finally closed the book, her eyes were bright with joy. They sat there for a long time, drinking tea and talking about nothing and everything. When Mingyu announces she must leave that night, Jiang Chen cannot hide his disappointment at their sudden separation. She lowered her head, her voice growing faint. She didn't finish the sentence, but she didn't have to. They sat there in silence for half an hour, watching the sun climb higher into the sky. Looking at her beautiful, delicate face, Jiang Chen felt a surge of emotion. Shangguan Mingyu closed her eyes, her long eyelashes fluttering with nerves. She was trying to stay calm, but she was shaking. For a few seconds, she looked like her brain had completely short-circuited. Her hands clenched into tight fists, unsure of what to do. She reached into her robe and pulled out a small jade pendant. She gave him a radiant smile, looking truly happy for the first time that morning. She reached out, her fingers grazing his cheek one last time. Downstairs, her maid Shaoling was waiting with their luggage. The two of them left the pavilion quickly, but they didn't head down the mountain. Right before they disappeared into the trees, Mingyu couldn't help herself. She stopped and stole one last glance back at the pavilion. They didn't go far before a group of men in black appeared, waiting beside a grand carriage. The men hoisted the carriage onto their shoulders. They stepped directly into the void, vanishing into thin air. Jiang Chen started walking toward the base of the mountain. Instead of taking the main road back to the Jiang estate, Jiang Chen took a sharp turn into a remote, overgrown trail. Seconds after Jiang Chen disappeared into the brush, two men burst out from the bushes. The other man nodded and sprinted back toward the main entrance of the Heavenly Fragrance Pavilion. This path was a mess of thorns and weeds. The only thing this path was good for was avoiding wild beasts. But other than that, it made no sense for a young master to be out here. Xiao Yun follows the scout's markers into the wilderness, confident that Jiang Chen has already entered the prepared killing ground. But this idiot is in such a hurry to die. He even picked out his own graveyard. They both scanned the surrounding area, looking for any hidden guards. The sound of rustling leaves signaled the return of two middle-aged men. They approached Xiao Yun and spoke in low voices. Xiao Yun Bai Hongfei, and their guards charged from the brush, surrounding Jiang Chen before revealing their murderous intent. Jiang Chen calmly stops walking and studies the attackers, allowing them to mistake his silence for fear. They are all just guys hanging out, act like they were old friends. Bai Hongfei let out a sharp, jagged laugh. He mocks the elaborate ambush, questioning why two clan heirs needed so many fighters to confront one's supposed weakling. Among the crowd were two cultivators at the 8th level of the body refinement realm. Bringing two of them just to kill him showed how desperate they were to make sure Jiang Chen stayed dead this time. He didn't bother hiding his bloodlust anymore. He loved seeing that look of terror on a dying man's face. Xiao Yun believes Jiang Chen survived the first plot through luck and promises that no second miracle will save him. But after a few seconds, their laughter died down. Usually, when a person is cornered like this, they stay terrified. For a moment, Xiao Yun and Bai Hongfei actually looked confused. Then they remembered the two 8th-level cultivators standing behind them. They had no idea they were the ones who had walked into a trap. The mockery on their faces grew even thicker. They thought Jiang Chen was a cornered animal making a last stand with words. He turned to the man standing behind him, his voice a jagged snarl. Lun was an 8th-level body refinement cultivator. The sheer force of his movement created a small whirlwind around him, the air whistling as he closed the gap. Bai Hongfei and Xiao Yun started to grin. The grin on Bai Hongfei's face froze. His eyes widened until they nearly popped out of his skull. His fingers were locked around his wrist like a steel vice. Luning's face turned from pale to purple in a heartbeat. A horrific, high-pitched scream ripped from his throat. At Xiao Yun's order, another 8th-stage guard rushes Jiang Chen while the remaining attackers prepare to overwhelm him together. Lun, despite his shattered wrist, snarled and pulled a green-tinted dagger from his robe with his free hand. Jiang Chen releases visible astral energy, proving he has entered the divine sea realm and instantly shattering their confidence. Their blades slammed into the barrier with a dull thud. It was like trying to stab a mountain. He scrambled backward, his face a mask of pure disbelief. He managed to retreat, but Lun wasn't so lucky. Jiang Chen catches an assassin's poison dagger and drives it back through the attacker's chest in one smooth motion. He slumped to the ground, dead before he even hit the dirt. Bai Hongfei's legs began to shake. Seeing his strongest guard die like a dog broke him. Xiao Yun sacrifices his own guards to slow Jiang Chen, desperately retreating after realizing the prey is stronger than every hunter. Bai Hongfei abandons Xiao Yun after watching their strongest guards die, caring more about escape than clan loyalty. Jiang Chen kicked off the ground, moving like an arrow released from a bow. His knees hit the dirt with a heavy thud. He started banging his head against the ground, pleading for his life. Bai Hongfei watched him for a second, his pride struggling against his survival instinct. He dropped to his knees beside Xiao Yun. Xiao Yun looked up, a glimmer of hope in his eyes. He lowered his head again, acting humble and submissive. But Jiang Chen could see their hands trembling with rage. A surviving guard lunges without hesitation, only to discover that Jiang Chen's speed completely exceeds his reactions. Xiao Yun and Bai Hongfei scrambled up, their faces pale with terror as they tried to flee again. It tore right through his back, the force, sending his body skidding across the dirt. He didn't even have time to scream before his life faded away. Bai Hongfei backed away, his voice trembling as he joined in. Their threats were hollow to a man who had already died once. Before they could even raise their hands to defend themselves, Jiang Chen had them both by the throat. Bai Hongfei saw his friend's body go limp and a desperate, crazed look filled his eyes. Jiang Chen destroys Xiao Yun's dantian before killing him, ensuring the arrogant heir understands his complete defeat. Jiang Chen hunted down every last person who had come to ambush him. After his last experience, Jiang Chen didn't feel any disgust. Jiang Chen carried them deep into the woods, walking for about half an hour, until Jiang Chen reached a jagged canyon. He throws the bodies into a monster-filled canyon, knowing the wilderness will erase every trace before morning. If both families attack the Jiangs right now, it would be a disaster. People were already hungry for the Jiang family's resources. It was a perfect tool for a hidden expert. Jiang Chen mastered it instantly. That's his tooth to the sixth stage of the body refinement realm. He heard his footsteps and jumped up, a simple, honest smile on his face. Returning home, Jiang Chen keeps his breakthrough secret and begins preparing the Jiang brothers for real combat training. Jiang Chen's father believes his son has only reached the sixth body refinement stage and no longer needs basic drills. Jiang Yu plans to take all three brothers into the 100 Beasts Mountains, where actual danger can sharpen their instincts. Jiang Chen had plenty of raw power now, but Jiang Chen lacked real combat experience. Jiang Chen uses the system's identity appraisal on Zhang Daoxin, curious about the source of his brother's abnormal hunger. Instead, Jiang Chen looked at Zhang Daoxin and decided to try a new system feature Jiang Chen would noticed earlier. Identity. That was one of the top 20 physiques in the entire world. It allowed the user to devour beast flesh and rare treasures to skyrocket their strength. At its peak, a user could swallow the stars themselves. Most people with unactivated physiques can barely cultivate it, all because the body eats all the energy. He was right on the edge of a massive awakening. Zhang Daoxin confirms that his hunger has become constant, providing the clearest sign that his dormant physique is awakening. Zhang Daoxin explains that ordinary meals no longer satisfy him because his awakening body consumes energy every moment. His stomach let out a long, loud growl. We'll wait for Big Brother to get back before they do anything else. He was visibly smaller, his body shrinking as it consumed itself for fuel. His Taiji divine bodies was starving for energy to trigger its awakening. Jiang Chen closed his eyes and began circulating the Chaos Creation Manual, feeling the energy flow through his veins. Meanwhile, across the city at the Yun family estate, a door creaked open. Yun Shishua stepped out of her private quarters, her expression cold and distant. Even though the Loyun sect influence kept the public gossip to a minimum, people still whispered. They believed the news of him divorcing her was just a desperate attempt by the Jiangs to save face. She had actually been discarded by that useless trash. Besides, With their family and the other two great clans putting pressure on them, their situation is getting worse by the day. She wanted to join the sect in front of everyone, making a grand spectacle of it. To her, the entrance exam was just a formality. More importantly, she wanted Zhang Yu to see the massive gap between them. She sat down in the main hall and closed her eyes to cultivate. Frost began to crawl across the surfaces of the wooden tables and chairs. After a while, she exhaled a breath of white mist and opened her eyes. Yun Shishue's father enters with several elders and proudly presents an expensive pill purchased for her assessment. When he popped the cork, a thick medicinal fragrance filled the entire hall. The elders standing nearby looked at the bottle with greed in their eyes, though they quickly hid it. Giving such a treasure to them would be a waste. Yun Shishui receives a third-tier cleansing pill, whose effects rival a fourth-tier treasure for body refinement cultivators. Zhang Chen had to spend 30,000 low-grade spirit stones to get it. There were only 3 in the whole auction, and one went for 40,000. Her family's spirit stone has only produced 50,000 stones a month. Spending 30,000 on a single pill showed how much her father was betting on her, but his body has already been cleansed once. One elder notes that the Xiao family bought a similar pill for Xiao Feng, whose strength may rise before recruitment. Yun Shishui remains confident that even repeated medicinal boosts cannot make Xiao Feng a genuine threat to her. After Yun Shishui leaves, her father and elders discuss tightening pressure on the already isolated Jiang family. Everyone, they have the Jiang family backed into a corner. An old man sitting at the front looked up. Several elders nodded in agreement, but not everyone was convinced. They have the Luo Yun sect backing them now. Some Yun elders hesitate because cornering the Jiang clan too aggressively could provoke a desperate counterattack. The cautious Yun elders recommend gradual pressure, fearing that a cornered Jiang family might choose mutual destruction. The others followed suit, their voices echoing in the hall. Across town, inside the Jiang family's council chamber, the atmosphere was completely different. When they looked inside, their eyes nearly popped out of their heads. At the Jiang council, the patriarch reveals 100,000 low-grade spirit stones supplied by Zhang Yu. That was 2 months' worth of the entire family's total revenue. They couldn't fathom how Zhang Yu had secured such a fortune so quickly. Once the elders dispersed, he looked at his brothers. They laughed and headed toward his quarters, the weight off their shoulders for the first time in weeks. Under the cover of night, the 3 of them slipped out of the city and headed toward the 100 Beasts mountain range. Zhang Daoxi nodded immediately, pulling out a snack to calm his nerves. 3 hours later, they reached the entrance of the dark, jagged mountains. The deeper they went, the slower they moved. It was his first time in a place like this. They found a small stone cave and rolled a massive boulder over the entrance to seal it. They were fat, low-level spirit beasts common in these woods. Soon the smell of roasting meat filled the cave. He had a soul remnant of a Tao integration expert, a land deity, guiding him with a legendary body and a master's soul in his head. Through his special pupils, Zhang Chen saw faint specks of light rising from the meat and dissolving into his body. Even a high-level cultivator wouldn't have noticed those tiny particles. But nothing escaped his eyes. He didn't ask how Zhang Chen already knew so much, and Zhang Chen didn't offer explanations. The crackling fire, the only sound in the cave. Deep inside those woods lived divine sea realm beasts, and things even more terrifying. It was at the peak of the 7th stage of body refinement. Zhang Chen purposely suppressed his strength to the early 6th stage. Monsters are naturally stronger than humans, so beating one at the same level is rare. Doing it while being weaker was unheard of. The fat he'd carried was melting away, replaced by a solid normal build. It let out one last gurgle and collapsed, the ground shaking as it hit the dirt. Second brother Zhang Daoxin scrambled over, eyes gleaming. Zhang Chen wiped the blood from his hands and smiled. After Zhang Daoxin drags a massive bear toward the stream, the brothers prepare to return for the approaching sect recruitment. The next day, they processed the meat and began the trek home. The Xiao and Bai families finally realized that Xiao Yun and Bai Hongfei have vanished without leaving any reliable trail. His voice trembled before turning into a guttural roar. Bai Hongfei might have been an illegitimate son, but he was still a Bai. Xiao Longshan orders his men to discover what happened, then questions a nervous confidant about Xiao Yun's final plans. Master, Zhang Chen heard the young master was planning to move against the second son of the Jiang family recently. But the Jiang family isn't just Zhang Chen. The Xiaos and Bai patriarchs suspect the Jiang family. exchanging a look filled with calculation and murderous hatred. Xiao Longshan orders an investigation into the Jiang family and seeks Yun's support for revenge against their missing heirs. Inside a secret chamber, Xiao Longshan, Bai Jiantong, and the Yun Patriarch finalize their temporary alliance against the Zhongs. Bai Jiantong's expression twists with murderous hatred as the three rival patriarchs discuss destroying the Jiang clan. He had even used his authority to force the clan to accept her back into the family. He coughed twice, trying to break the tension. The sect recruitment trials were starting tomorrow, and making a move now would be bad timing. The rival patriarchs planned to secure sect backing first, then destroy the Zhang family without fearing political consequences. In their minds, the trash of the Jiang family didn't have the talent to pass the trials. When the elders felt the thick bloody aura clinging to them, they looked satisfied. He asked if the trip to the 100 Beasts Mountain had been fruitful. Zhang Yu jumped up, insisting it was nothing. The air in the room finally felt warm, like a real family again. He muttered to himself, asking if this was actually his son. Zhang Daoxin scratched his head, looking embarrassed, and asked if his dad thought he had popped out of a rock instead. She was already a guaranteed disciple for the Luoyun sect. He feared the sect might intentionally target them during the trials to please her. He had no intention of joining the Luoyun sect anyway. There were two sects recruiting, and he would simply choose the other one. He had been worried Zhang Yu would try to follow his ex-fiancée out of spite, but he saw now that his son had truly moved on. Zhang Qin remembered Zhang had 3 enlightenment opportunities left. It told him Zhang Qin could use enlightenment on his double pupils. The system shielded his room so no one could sense what was happening. High above in the sky, 2 blurred figures were locked in a world-shattering battle. Just as the blow was about to land, his body began to move on its own. The collision of their fists sounded like a mountain collapsing. This was the same mysterious man Zhang Chen had seen when Zhang Chen first awakened his double pupils. The fight intensified until a massive shockwave forced both sides back. The colors of the sky and earth shifted into something alien. This was the true secret of the double pupils. Ancient runes swirling around his body as his own power filled the sky. As the beam tore forward, the other youth met the attack with everything he had, unleashing powerful techniques to intercept the dark light. Just as the final explosion reached him, his vision snapped to black again. Outside, a sudden crack of thunder shook the house. Not just the combat experience, but the specific technique, the world-ending divine light. Before Zhang Chen could even sit up, a loud knocking rattled his door. The sect people are almost at Divine Wind City. Since his breakthrough, the guy was a bottomless pit. He's getting things ready, Zhang Daoxin mumbled through a mouthful. He had a rare, confident smile on his face. Zhang Yu distributes 4th-grade dragon blood pills, strengthening his brothers before the sect recruitment assessment begins. Zhang Chen modestly credits luck for his progress, stores the dragon blood pill, and follows his brothers toward the main hall. The Jiang elders place their clan's future into 3 brothers' hands as the recruitment assessment approaches. The Jiang brothers arrive together, confronting the hostile attention of rival clans. Without exposing their full power, the whole group marched out of the estate toward the city center. Anyone under 25, with at least a level 3 body refinement cultivation could try out. He trailed off, his eyes full of confusion. The tension left his face immediately, replaced by a look of relief. The other 3 great families were already there. Their leaders were huddled together, laughing and talking like best friends. His face palled slightly, and the other elders looked just as grim. They could smell the danger in the air. But today, the heads of those families were sitting together, chatting, and laughing like old friends. Commoners whispered that the Xiao, Bai, and Yun families may combine forces to erase the Jiang clan entirely. After a moment, Xiao Longshan slowly stood up. It seems Divine Wind City's former #1 genius is still unwilling to give up. Their eyes darted to Zhang Yu, filled with ridicule. Now that his younger son had died at the hands of the Jiang family, he wasn't hiding his hostility anymore. The patriarch promises that the assessments will reveal the Jiang family's true top genius soon enough. Xiao Longshan had expected an explosion of rage, or at least a heated argument. Instead, Zhang Wangkong was smiling at them, like they were clowns. Bai Jiantong privately urges Xiao Longshan to remain calm, preferring to let the Luoyun sect crush the Jiang family. Beside him, Baijian's fists were clenched so tight, his knuckles turned white. A young man in his early 20s stood behind Jian Tong and looked up. A rival youth privately vows that the Jiang family will pay for humiliating the allied clans. Although the next candidate trails Xiao Feng and Yun Shishui, his strength still ranks among Divine Wind City's best young talents. A massive shadow appeared in the sky, hurtling toward the plaza at incredible speed. A group of people stood proudly at the bow. When the crowd saw the insignia on the ship, a roar went up. Two enormous sect vessels arrive above the plaza, carrying the Luoyun and Qingyun elders, who will judge the candidates. On the deck of the flying ship, a withered old man from the Luoyun sect scowled. The Qingyun sect is still the same. An old man on the back of the Black Eagle looked down and laughed. The Luoyun sect has already recruited plenty of geniuses this time. The Qingyun elder suppresses his frustration and argues that talent provides only a starting advantage, not guaranteed greatness. The air between the two sects was thick with tension. Even though both were major powers, the Luoyun sects had been pulling ahead in recent years. If the Qingyun sect master couldn't break through his current bottleneck, his death was only a matter of time. Over the last few years, the relationship between the two sects had soured. The Luoyun sect missed no opportunity to suppress the Qingyun sect. Most candidates favor the stronger Luoyun sect, while the declining Qingyun sect struggles to attract exceptional disciples. As the representatives from both sects touched down, the heads of the three great families immediately swarmed forward to greet them. He was the same elder who had accompanied Yun Shishui to the Jiang house to break off her engagement with Jiang Yu. She looked down with a cold, indifferent gaze, like a proud white swan. She had a frigid aura that most men found irresistible. The admired local beauty still lacks Mingyu's soul-stirring grace, while an arrogant youth scans the crowd with open disdain. A faint trace of killing intent leaked out of him before he suppressed it. Seeing his enemies again clearly made his blood boil. She turned her head and her eyes met theirs. When she saw Jiang Yu, a cold smirk played on her lips. She gave Jiang Yu one last dismissive look and turned away. He followed her gaze until he spotted Jiang Yu. His father was an influential elder, giving him a status that few dared to challenge. From the moment he first saw her, he had decided she belonged to him. He had already put Jiang Yu on his death list. The atmosphere shifted as the elders took their seats at the head of the plaza. His father and the other family heads took their places, and the chatter died down. The elder from the Qing sect, Chen Huanyuan, stood up. Chen Huanyuan introduces himself as a Qingyun sect elder, offering candidates an alternative to Du Qingfeng's favored Luoyun sect. They looked down at the Qingyun sect hopefuls with pure arrogance, acting as if they were already superior beings just for wearing the Luoyun sect colors. He looked at Du Qingfeng with a cold, steady gaze. Chen Huanyuan places a massive black testing slab in the plaza and explains the assessment's two phases. The first is a test of raw strength hosted by the Qingyun sect. In the body refinement realm, each level usually only adds about 200 pounds of strength. A level 3 cultivator might hit 700 pounds at their peak, but that required expensive medicinals to temper the body. Jiang Yu quietly tells Zhang Daoxin not to hide too much strength when his turn at the testing monument arrives. Zhang Chen watched Zhang Daoxin grin, a spark of excitement lighting up his eyes. He wants him to win back some face for the Zhang family and slap these people across their faces. He nodded, though his eyes told a different story. They don't need to be over the top, but they can't let them look down on the Jiang family either. He wanted to publicly humiliate the other great families. The first candidate stepped up, a sturdy guy who looked like he'd spent his life lifting rocks. The recording disciple announces an early candidate's 4th stage cultivation and 600-pound result before marking the attempt as passed. His success gave the people behind him a surge of confidence. The first candidates strike the black monument, which converts raw strength into a clear numerical result. Even some level 4 cultivators couldn't make the mark. He didn't look like much, but when his fist hit the iron, the sound was different. Chen Huanyuan studies each promising youth carefully because the declining Qingyun sect desperately needs exceptional new talent. Even the sect elders on the high chairs leaned forward. Suddenly, Du Qingfeng from the Luoyun sect stood up. Normally, everyone starts as a lowly chore disciple. Jumping straight to the outer sect was a massive shortcut. Du Qingfeng saw a future powerhouse in this kid, and he wasn't going to let him go. When the two elders compete over Gu Yi, the crowd realizes the assessment can become an auction for genuine talent. Two major sects were bidding over a teenager. Gu Yi looked at both of them, a small, confident smile playing on his lips. This disciple, Gu Yi, is willing to join the Luoyun sect. Du Qingfeng let out a boisterous laugh, throwing a mocking glance at Chen Huanyuan. Chen Huanyuan's face turned purple, but he forced himself to stay calm. Du Qingfeng expands the Luoyun recruitment quota by 10 places, using generosity to make his sect look even more desirable. Bai Su steps forward after several failures, determined to prove the rival Bai family still possesses worthy young cultivators. His blood chi boiled, visible even from a distance. He was a level 6 peak, yet he was only 200 pounds stronger than Gu Yi, who was a full level below him. Although Bai Su surpasses Gu Yi in cultivation, his result barely exceeds hers, revealing the weakness of his foundation. But then he glanced over at them, the useless Jiang family, and his mood instantly brightened. The Bai family celebrates anyway, while Chen Huanyuan watches Du Qingfeng collect promising candidates for the Luoyun sect. Chen Huanyuan can only endure the early losses. Knowing the Qingyun sect's decline makes his offers difficult to sell. After Du Qingfeng claims several promising candidates, Xiao Feng approaches the monument with complete confidence. He slowed down as he passed the Zhang family seating area. A rival clan member promises revenge against the Zhang family as a wave of murderous pressure spreads through the plaza. He looked at Xiao Feng with complete indifference, his eyes flat. Xiao Feng's face twists with rage when Zhang Yu dismisses him without even granting the challenge a serious response. The news about Xiao Yun's death had leaked. That explained why the three rival families had been meeting so often lately. Divine Wind City's strongest expert was only at the 5th level of the Sea Realm. Xiao Feng reached the tablet and let his aura explode. He was at the 8th level of the Body Refinement Realm. Xiao Feng's strike produces an impressive result at the 8th Body Refinement stage, placing him among the day's early leaders. He knew Xiao Feng would never choose his declining sect. He clenched his fists, mourning the glory days of the Qingyun sect, when disciples fought to join them. The disciple recording the scores stood frozen, his jaw dropping as the wind from the impact brushed past faces. Xiao Longshan smirks toward the Yun family, while Bai Jiantong stays silent because his own son's achievement now looks insignificant. Brother, the other three families are teaming up. He glanced at him and Zhang Yu, his worry fading slightly as he remembered the changes he'd seen in them lately. Predictably, Du Qingfeng offered Xiao Feng a spot with even better perks than the others. To them, joining a dying sect was a dead end. The stronger the sect, the more resources they have. As Xiao Feng stepped down from the stage, all eyes shifted toward his family. Xiao Longshan didn't miss the chance to twist the knife. It was a cruel, mocking sound that echoed across the plaza. A Bai family youth deliberately shouts across the plaza, trying to shame the Zhang brothers before their turns. Their eyes were full of pure disdain, but Zhang Yu didn't flinch. He looked at Bishui like he was watching a pathetic clown performing a bad act. Jiang Chen quietly addresses his two brothers, signaling that the moment to reveal part of their strength has arrived. Biuchi's face went from pale to a deep, angry purple. He looked like he was about to explode. A voice thundered before Bai Shui could even speak. Du Qingfeng reminds Zhang Wangkong that Luo Yun spared the Zhang family once for Yun Shishui's sake, turning mercy into a threat. The power of the creation realm swept through the plaza like a tidal wave. The air grew heavy, making it hard to breathe. The Xiao and Bai families expect Du Qingfeng to abuse Luo Yun authority against the Zhang clan over Yun Shishui's humiliation. They couldn't wait to see the Zhang family, humiliated, were destroyed. An elder losing his mind over a few words. Du Qingfeng turns his murderous gaze toward Chen Huanyuan, as the rival elder refuses to tolerate his bullying. Cracks spread beneath Du Qingfeng's feet as the furious elder releases enough pressure to frighten the surrounding clans. A bloodbath appears seconds away, while City Representative Wang Lin watches the confrontation with a knowing smirk. Offending elder, do at a time like this. He looked toward the source of the voice, his face darkening. At the front was a young woman, maybe 18 or 19. She had a perfect, elegant face and wore a stunning purple dress. People started whispering that since Shangguan Mingyu had disappeared, this girl was the only one who could put Yun Shisha to shame. He represented the government, which usually stayed out of sect business. But what shocked everyone more was that the city lord was walking behind the girl in purple. Feng Haiyan explains that he merely escorted Princess Gu to the assessment, concealing the deeper marriage connection. He looked at the girl, then at the silent old man in black walking behind her. This is Princess Shi Yao, the daughter of Prince Gu. When his father heard that name, he got a very strange look on his face. He went quiet for a second, then shook his head. He was a powerhouse at the void-shattering realm. The silent old man in the black robe behind her was her protector. His cultivation was at the creation realm, just like Elder Du, but his aura felt much thicker, much more dangerous. Yun Shishui, on the other hand, looked miserable. Gu Shi's arrival steals Yun Shishui's spotlight before the princess calmly addresses both sect elders. Elder Du, Chen Huanyuan, today is for recruiting disciples. The princess traveled a long way just for this exam. Elder Du glanced at the black-robed protector and felt the pressure. The tension eased, but only for a second. After Princess Gu Xiao arrives, she immediately asks which of the three Jiang brothers is Jiang Chen. Others thought the Jiang family was finally doomed. His brothers Jiang Yu and Jiang Daoxin looked at him with wide questioning eyes. He had a warm, gentle smile on his face. Gu Xiao stopped and blinked at his father for a long time. Her arrival forces the sect elders and rival patriarchs to reconsider how much political support the Jiang family possesses. Gu Xiao explains that Prince Gu still remembers Jiang Wangkong's past kindness, despite years of imperial responsibilities. It was just a stroke of luck that Jiang Chen could help. The faces of the other three great families turned pale. The Zhang family had a connection to Prince Gu. If their relationship was that strong, his brother Zhang Wangkong wouldn't be the head of the family right now. Jiang Chen stood up, still feeling completely out of the loop. Instead, she circled him, her eyes scanning him from head to toe, like Jiang Chen was a piece of meat at a market. The black-robed elder stepped up to her side. They can deal with the Zhang family matters later. Elder Du nodded quickly, his arrogance completely gone. After receiving the nod to proceed, Gu Xiyao stepped toward the star monument. She raised her pale, slender arm and threw a punch. As the dust settled, her true power was laid bare for everyone to see. The 9th level of the body refinement realm, usually hitting 3,000 pounds of force at the 9th level, was considered excellent. She wasn't just talented, she was a monster. She had all the resources in the world and a body tempered by the finest medicines. Jiang Chen could see the wheels turning in his head, but in return, the sects got easier access to spirit stones and resources. He definitely didn't want to lose her to the Qingyun sect. Truly, a tiger father does not have a fox daughter. She had a specialized ice physique and only got an intersect slot. Yet, this girl was getting the same offer just for being strong. His ice physique is at the minor achievement stage. She took a deep breath, regaining her composure. There was a clear look of provocation in her eyes. Xi Yao surprises the crowd by politely rejecting Chu Qingfeng's offer instead of immediately joining the Luoyun sect. Apparently, her father had told her that the Luoyun sect was the top choice. He was just there for protection, not to make her decisions. Elder Du's smile stiffened for a second, but he played it off with a dry laugh. Chen Huanyuan from the Qingyun sect saw an opening and pounced. The Luoyun sect had already snatched up most of the talent today. It wasn't a yes, but it wasn't a no. Elder Qin beamed, happy just to still be in the running. Yun Shishui stood up, her chin held high. As she walked toward the monument, she walked past the Zhang family seating area. She shot a look at Zhang Yu that was dripping with arrogance. Yun Shishui activates her ice physique during the strength test, freezing the stone beneath her feet as the monument reacts. Anyone with a special physique had a high chance of reaching the creation realm, or even the cave heaven realm. Finding one in a backwater place like Divine Wind City was unheard of. Elder Du smirked, throwing a mocking glance at Elder Chan, who pointedly looked away. 7,500 pounds of force. The recording disciple screamed, his voice cracking. She was at the same level as the princess. She had beaten Princess Shi Yao by over 0 pounds of force. Her talent was undeniable, but comparing her to the princess was a dangerous game. Yun Shishui let out a long breath and pulled her hand back. She turned her gaze toward Gu Xiao, expecting to see shock or envy. Instead, she saw the princess looking right past her. Gu Xiao was staring at the Zhang family seating area again. Yun Shishui was clenching her fists so hard they cracked. The crowd was stuck in an awkward silence. They were stunned by her power, but they didn't dare cheer too loudly. If they praised her too much, they'd be insulting the princess. If they didn't praise her enough, they'd be ignoring a genius with a special physique. Du Qingfeng tries to end the first phase before testing the Zhang brothers, exposing his blatant attempt to exclude them. Elder Du, the Zhang family, hasn't tested yet. Elder Du let out a sharp, mocking laugh. The Luoyun sect disciples erupted in laughter behind them. He taunts Jiang Yu about his lost genius, expecting the fallen heir to fail publicly before the entire city. The truth was, Elder Du couldn't see their cultivation levels because of the breath concealing technique Jiang Chen had given his brothers. The Jiang brothers never question where Jiang Chen found his secret manuals, and he never asks them to weaken their performances. Regardless of talent, anyone who meets the requirements has the right to test. Jiang Chen would love to see what the three great geniuses of the Jiang family can actually do. He spat the word geniuses like it was a joke. Yun Shishua's senior brother Wang Ning greets with frantic eagerness, receiving only a cold nod in return. Jiang Chen looked at his younger brother, Zhang Daoxin. He stood up and blurred toward the stage. He was positioned so his back was to the crowd, blocking their view of the monument's face. Zhang Daoxin finally steps forward, looking harmless enough that most spectators prepare to laugh at the Jiang family. Elder Du shot out of his seat, his face pale. He realized he had miscalculated, but even then, he didn't think the result would be anything special. His strike slams into the monument with overwhelming force, instantly changing the mockery into stunned silence. The monument records 20,000 pounds of force, an impossible result for an 8th-stage body refinement cultivator. Yun Shishue stood up again, her eyes wide with disbelief. Xiao, Longshan, and the other clan leaders looked like they'd seen a ghost. Even the mysterious black-robed elder narrowed his eyes. As the city lord of Divine Wind City, he knew the Jiang family's business. He realized the Jiang family wasn't as simple as they appeared. There was a reason they were connected to the royal prince. He had to stay on the Jiang family's good side. This didn't match any of the intelligence she had gathered. He charged toward the stage, desperate to verify the results himself. But Chen Huanyan from the Qingyun sect was faster. The tension between the Luoyun sect and the Jiang family was public knowledge now. Du Qingfeng curses Chen Huanyuan under his breath while struggling to conceal his fury over Zhang Daoxin's result. Chen Huanyuan remains beside Zhang Daoxin, ensuring Du Qingfeng cannot secretly harm the extraordinary young candidate. Du Qingfeng looks sick with frustration as Chen Huanyuan warmly congratulates Zhang Daoxin like a treasured future disciple. Du Qingfeng immediately offers Zhang Daoxin an inner disciple position. Desperate to keep such talent away from Qingyun sect, he turned to Zhang Daoxin, his voice suddenly smooth. A true martial artist needs to start from the bottom to build character. If Zhang Daoxin became a core disciple of the Luoyun sect, the Jiang family would become untouchable. If Zhang Daoxin had that kind of backing, Yun Shishue wouldn't be a threat anymore. Once he was inside the Luoyun sect, they'd likely find a way to dispose of him. Yun Shishue sat nearby, her face a mask of cold fury. She had been the star of the day, and now she was being ignored. First the princess, and now the trash Jiang family. Yun Shishue dismisses Zhang Daoxin as mere brute strength, but her anger reveals how badly his result unsettled her. Elder Du won't let a threat like him survive. They expected him to jump at the core disciple offer. He just turned down the chance of a lifetime to be an inner disciple elsewhere. When Du Qingfeng attacks a junior, Chen Huanyuan blocks him and condemns a creation realm elder for bullying a candidate. He's nothing special anyway. Du Cheng spat, trying to save face. The danger had passed, or so they thought. It was time to make him regret it. Beside him, Zhang Yu let out a soft chuckle. The rest of the crowd leaned forward. Their curiosity piqued. Su wanted to say something insulting, but after seeing Daoxin's power, he kept his mouth shut. They simply walked toward the star monument, their footsteps steady and rhythmic. The rival patriarchs rise in horror when Zhang Yu follows with another extraordinary result for the supposedly ruined clan. Both of them were showing the strength of the 8th level of the body refinement realm. The Jiang family was hiding their strength on purpose. He looked up and met the gaze of Feng Haiyan, the city lord. Feng Haiyan was watching him with a deep knowing look. Feng Haiyan's presence prevents the Luoyun sect from openly suppressing the Jiang family without risking imperial consequences. The sect wouldn't risk a war with an empire just to help a local clan eliminate a rival. Even the old man in black looked confused. He had studied the Jiang family's files before coming here. He wondered what the people in the Shadow Pavilion were doing. He made a mental note to complain to the prince when he got back. Jiang Chen, on the other hand, had tried to hold back, but Jiang Chen still smashed out a score of 40,000. He just smiled at him and leaned in close. Now, every single person in the crowd was staring at him. She had been slapped in the face by reality so many times today that she was numb. The numbers on the monument said it all. Zhang Yu finally breaks the stunned silence and calmly addresses Du Qingfeng after another impossible Jiang family result. Jiang Chen felt a vein throb in his forehead. He just let out a sharp snort and turned to the crowd. After Jiang Chen's record-breaking strike, Du Qingfeng abruptly announces the first round complete and moves to pressure resistance. He was screaming internally, vowing to make the Jiang family and Chen Huanyuan pay for this humiliation. While Du Qingfeng was fuming, Chen Huanyuan was grinning so wide his eyes disappeared into slits. Zhang Daoxin had already said the Jiang family would join the Qingyun sect. He had just stumbled upon three incredible geniuses for free. Zhang Chen accepts Chen Huanyuan's protection, formally placing all three brothers under the Qingyun sect. Gu Xiao withdraws from the pressure test after deciding that the first phase already revealed everything she needed. Zhang Chen, Zhang Yu, and Zhang Daoxin enter the second test, with the plaza still reeling from their combined performance. The old man opened his mouth to argue, but then closed it. If she had made up her mind, there was no point in talking. As she said it, she shot a meaningful look in his direction. His fists were clenched so hard his knuckles were white. The rest of the assessment felt like a formality. As the pressure rises, weaker candidates collapse coughing blood until more than half the field has been eliminated. They knew if they quit now, all their previous effort was for nothing. A few, however, remained perfectly calm, as if the pressure hadn't touched them at all. Those who performed exceptionally in the second round may enter the Luoyun sect as outer disciples. Chen Huanyuan stepped forward immediately, not wanting to be outdone. Having already secured the three brothers of the Zhang family, he didn't seem to care much about how many other disciples he recruited today. They had barely survived the assessment and knew that life in the prestigious Luoyun sect would be brutal for them. Chen Honwan pulled out a stash of healing pills and distributed them among the battered new recruits. Xiao, Longshan, and the other rival patriarchs looked sick after watching the Zhang brothers dominate the entire assessment. Xiao Longshan and Bai Jiantong exchanged dark looks before following the Luoyun group away from the plaza. Even a proud sect elder had to show respect to someone backed by Prince Gutian. To a high-ranking elder, a small-town city lord wasn't worth his time. Chen Huanyuan promises to protect the Zhang family if the Xiao or Bai clans attack, while the brothers train away. He liked how fast Zhang Chen picked up on things. This is Divine Wind City, quite a distance from the prince's lands. Once recruitment ends, Chen Huanyuan leads the new Qingyun disciples toward their lodging before departure. After a brief chat with the man in black and a polite farewell to his uncle, Chen Huanyuan led his new disciples toward the Heavenly Star Inn. They turned to leave, but a sharp voice cut through the air. Zhang Yu and Zhang Daoxin didn't say a word. They just stood there like spectators at a show, their eyes bouncing between him and Xiao. She took a deep breath, forcing herself to stay calm. His answer clearly wasn't what she expected, and she seemed at a total loss for words. He saw his blank expression and seemed to realize Zhang Chen was missing some very important context. As they walked back, the news of the three dragons of the Zhang family was already tearing through Divine Wind City like a wildfire. News that the Zhang family swept the assessment's top 3 positions spreads through Divine Wind City like wildfire. Zhang Chen took the chance to lean in toward his father. Back then, Gutian wasn't the powerful prince he is today. During a rebellion, he was betrayed by enemy forces and suffered horrific injuries. Gu Tianxiang had fallen into a coma from his injuries. His wife, the princess, was pregnant, making it nearly impossible for them to keep running. He knew a man in that state was being hunted, and getting involved was an easy way to get their whole family killed. The family had long since faded and most of their secrets were lost, but her skills were real. Under her care, Gu Tianxiang and his wife slowly recovered. If their children were the same gender, they'd be siblings. He even sent cultivation resources to help the Jiang family. Staying too close would only bring trouble or unwanted attention from the prince's enemies. Distance was the best protection for the Jiang family. He figured it was just drunk talk between friends. There was no way a prince would actually marry his daughter off to a family in a place like Divine Wind City. It took him a good minute to process the bombshell he just dropped. No wonder the little princess was looking for a second brother the moment she arrived. She remained calm, showing no sign of anger. Zhang Chen's father warns that Gu Xiao may demand an annulment and asks his son to endure the political embarrassment calmly. Zhang Chen looked at his father's serious face and shrugged. Even if Gu Xiao was beautiful, his heart was already set. A little further ahead, the old man in black, Zhao Tong, leaned toward Xiao. Gu Xiao tells her protector there is no rush, preferring to observe Zhang Chen before raising the engagement. They had only come to this city because Gu Xiao had insisted on breaking the engagement. Without a powerful physical constitution, a high starting point in the body refinement realm didn't mean much. Gu Xiao hung back, her eyes constantly drifting toward him. Though she didn't say a word, Jiang Chen's father gives his son spending money and asks him to show Gu Xiao around Divine Wind City. With that, he headed toward the main hall to host the guests. Hong followed him after giving Xiao a quick nod. With that, he walked over to Zhang Yu. Divine Wind City might not be the most prosperous place, but it has its charms. They just stood there, staring at each other in an awkward silence. Honestly, Jiang Chen just wanted to get her settled, so Jian could go back to his room and collapse. Gu Xiao's brow tightens when Zhang Chen casually suggests ending their outing early and returning to the estate. Seeing her act like this, Zhang Chen couldn't help but let a small smile play on his lips. If her first impression was terrible, the divorce would go through without a hitch. Oh, Zhang Chen looked at her, making sure to let a flicker of false hope shine in his eyes. She huffed, her chin tilting up with pride. She thought Zhang Chen would break down and beg her to stay. But Zhang Chen kept his face perfectly still. Gu Xiao expects resistance when she proposes ending the childhood engagement, but Zhang Chen agrees without hesitation. His effortless acceptance bruises the proud princess more deeply than begging or anger ever could have done. She was a stunning beauty with a prestigious title. She looked like she was about to snap. Unwilling to end the evening, Gu Xiao insists it is too early to remain inside the guest quarters. One second she was fine, and the next she was throwing a tantrum. She took a deep breath, composed herself, and marched toward the estate gates. Huge crowds filled the walkways, and colorful lanterns were being lit everywhere. Her eyes sparkled as she looked at the stalls. Within 15 minutes, her hands were full of trinkets. Lanterns hung thick overhead, casting a warm glow on everything. It happens once a year and lasts for 2 days. Still irritated, Gu Xiao asks whether Divine Wind City offers anything more interesting than ordinary lantern viewing. All the local scholars and poets gather at Moon Lake. As the daughter of Prince Gu, she was well versed in the arts. Zhang Chen wanted to see what kind of talents this city has. Small boats dotted the water, all heading toward a massive multi-storied pleasure boat anchored right in the center. They looked like classic scholars from an old painting. Gu Xiao looked at the floating lanterns on the water, and then at the grand boat in the middle. The area was quiet with only a few people lingering about. When Gu Xiao notices the crowded Moon Lake, Zhang Chen offers to explain the city's annual poetry gathering. He blinked at her for a second before speaking softly. Zhang Chen realizes Gu Xiao has never attended the Moon Lake Festival and begins explaining its unusual customs. Reaching the Water Moon pleasure boat requires an original poem, turning the lake into a public contest of literary talent. Gu Xiao prepares to write, unaware that the boatman already recognized Zhang Chen as the poet behind Ming Yu's masterpiece. She was just about to ask for a brush and paper when a startled voice rang out from behind Wang Gang. There was a mix of shock and pure admiration on his face. "Gang, go get a boat ready for young Master Zhang right now." A local explains that every visitor must submit a poem before receiving permission to approach the pleasure boat. Young Master Zhang is the one who wrote it. He looked at him again, finally connecting the dots. The young scholar hurries away with the same awed respect that Li Sanchuan already shows Zhang Chen. But since she arrived, Zhang Chen had shown the strength of an 8-stage body refinement, realm cultivator. The more she thought about it, the more it made sense. She decided she was going to expose his little act tonight. If it was a fake setup, the poem would be mediocre at best. He eagerly pulled a piece of paper from his robe and handed it to her. Gu Xiao took it carelessly, but as she began to read, her expression shifted from skepticism to pure shock. People have their grief and joy, their parting and reunion. The moon has its shades and degrees of fullness. The boatman reveals that Zhang Chen wrote the celebrated moon poem specifically for Shangguan Mingyu. All these scholars were desperate to write a good poem, just to get a chance to board her ship and sit with her. A scholar identifies Shangguan Mingyu as Divine Wind City's former greatest beauty, adding weight to the boatman's revelation. But her grace and those eyes of hers, they drive men mad. He's the only man who has ever spent time alone with her. Lins realized his mistake and shut his mouth instantly. Li Sanchuan stares at Gu Xiao in disbelief, before respectfully greeting the princess and Zhang Chen. She didn't say another word to him, turning instead to him. He looked like a man who had just escaped a death sentence. Just then, Wang Gang came running up to him, his eyes wide with curiosity. Wang Gang had seen the famous Yun Shui before, and he'd been stunned by her beauty then. Another scholar falls silent after comparing Gu Xiao with Yun Shui and recognizing the princess's overwhelming beauty. The scholar sharply warns his companion against disrespecting a woman of Gu Xiao's status and beauty. The boatmen hurry back to work and pretend nothing unusual happened, leaving the astonished scholars to process Jiang Chen's identity. The water rippled with a soft splashing sound, reflecting the glow of the lanterns floating across the lake. They maintained a respectful distance, the men on board looking lost in thought, trying to compose the perfect poem. Coming to a place like this, dressed like a merchant's son, he has no class. Every year, wealthy brats show up, hoping to catch a glimpse of the water moon fairy. The watching scholars identified Jiang Chen beside Princess Gu, confirming the politically important pair has arrived together. The Jiang family and the prince really are close. The men who were about to approach Gu Xiao choked back their words, their faces turning pale. His reputation had spread through Divine Wind City after taking first place in the sect entrance exams. This is a place for poetry and lyrics, not fighting. Everyone has to follow the rules of the lake. He's probably just here to show off and make a fool of himself. A few of these guys were from powerful families outside the city. They didn't dare insult the princess, but they had no problem taking shots at him. The installment ends with Jiang Chen calmly rowing toward the Moon Lake pleasure boat, while jealous scholars question his literary talent.